Hi, this is Ken Parker welcoming you to another episode of Common Ground, the policy roundtable where we bring together a panel with diverse views on issues of concern to Newton residents and try to hammer out some of our differences. For those of you who are new to our show, let's review the format. First, I introduce a topic. Then we go around the table once, with each panelist expressing their viewpoint. I then select the two panelists who disagree the most strongly and ask them to speak directly to one another in hopes of finding some area of agreement. At the end of the segment, I give an assessment of how we did at finding common ground, and I put in my 2 cents on the topic. As always, we have a fabulous panel. Tonight's maybe just a little bit more fabulous than average, perhaps, and we have some really interesting topics. So without further ado, let's introduce tonight's panel. On my left is Matt Yospin, candidate for President of the United States. No, wait, sorry. No, I've been watching too much Iowa coverage. Matt is a patent attorney,
Yes.
a Newtonville resident, and a community activist. Yeah. And am I leaving anything important out?
I'm a father to 2 wonderful kids.
And probably coach in various...
And some other things, too.
Yes, lots of others, but okay.
Thanks for having me on, Ken. It's great to be here.
Great to have you on, Matt. Long time no see.
Indeed.
All right, Tarik.
Hi, Ken.
Great to have you back on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
So you also have many hats.
Yes.
Let me rattled off the first 3 that I can think of. You are a candidate for Newton City Council at large from Ward 2.
Correct.
Not for President of the United States,
Not
although
yet.
almost everyone in the country is, I think. So we're like the only people who aren't running for that. Second of all, you are an elected official in Newton and member of the Newtonville Area Council.
Vice President.
Oh, and vice president. President of, how much vice do you have to do to get that job?
This much, yeah.
Okay, good. And third, I know that you work for that university across the river.
Yes, that's right. I am at Harvard University Press. I've been there for over 10 years. I am the royalty specialist there.
Cool.
And it's, yeah.
So you work with kings and queens then?
Yes,
royalty,
that's right. Royalty, yes, that's right.
That's what I figured that meant. All right, well, welcome back to the show, Tarik.
Thank
It's
you.
a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
And Dick Blazer.
That's right. He got it right.
Yeah, no, well, Dick, you served about 8 years?
8 years.
On the
right.
Newton Board of Aldermen before it became the city. Oh,
City Council.
It became the city council. What, in your last term or 2?
Yes, that's right.
And you were the Ward 6 ward councilor who succeeded George Mansfield, who did it for
a long
260
time.
years, I believe.
Close.
No, 26, I think it was.
26, right.
Yeah, so
right.
So we didn't overlap in our service, but you picked up the ball right where George and I left
I tried
it
to. It was hard. It was hard to pick it up after George, but I did it as best I could.
Anyway, so the other title you have, of course, is also you're an attorney and practicing in Newton, right? Are you still
That's right.
You're
I am still practicing.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
Lesser than normal, but yeah, I'm still doing it a little bit.
okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. What kind of law?
Well, I started out as a labor union lawyer, and then I went on my own, worked for a labor union for about 2, 3, 4 years, and then I went on my own, and I did a lot of litigation in real estate, mostly.
So that's pretty much what you're still doing then, litigation?
Yes, yes. Well, no, litigation less so. I'm
Real estate these
getting
days.
too old to do litigation. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Well, so if somebody needs a closing, you're their guy, though. Right?
yeah. That's
Okay.
right.
All right, there
Yeah.
we go then.
Yeah.
Good to know. I sometimes have a client who needs a closing, and I'm not going to touch real estate. law
Okay, well,
these days
that's
with
good.
Paul.
Yeah.
So anyway, no offense or anything.
That's
but-
all right. Yeah.
All right. So so tonight we've got 3 topics that I think are all consistent with the mantra of the environmental movement: to think globally and act locally. And so our first topic is dealing with what I think is probably the biggest national security crisis facing our country right now, which is climate change. And so the question is, there are people in the country, apparently, who do not believe that the climate is changing. Obviously, they have not been outside if they think that. They have not read a newspaper and seen the fires out west and the floods in the Midwest and the other effects of climate change that are already plaguing our nation and the world. However, the problem that I want to talk about tonight is not the climate change deniers, but the problem for those who recognize that this is an issue. What steps can we take to address the issue? And my concern that I'd like the panel to help me out with is what are the myths about climate change? Or we've heard there are a lot of myths about what people can do. So let's try to debunk some of those myths and talk about actual productive steps. And there's one myth in particular that I heard recently articulated by several people in Newton, which I'm concerned is getting us sort of on the wrong track. And I'll throw this out there, and if anybody here in the panel disagrees with me about this, I'd love to hear that. But the myth that concerns me is the myth that that the way to confront climate change and reduce the carbon emission footprint of Newton is to build more residential development in Newton. My understanding, and that's always cited to Sierra Club studies and studies from environmental groups that say we need to have more housing in city centers. And so my recollection of those studies and that science, and I hope to be corrected if I'm wrong about this, is that the Sierra Club and other environmental groups pointed out that transit is a major generator of carbon emissions, CO2 emissions, and other global warming gases. And so what they said is, wouldn't it be great if people lived closer to where they worked? So what they did is a study of urban areas and said, there are some places where people live where there are more residents than jobs. And so those are the primarily residential areas. Those people are going off in the morning and going somewhere else, usually in their cars, but maybe on public transportation to their workplaces. And then on the other hand, so those are net residential communities. Mm-hmm. And then there are other communities that are net commercial. They're where the jobs are. Mm-hmm. And what the Sierra Club said, so wouldn't it be great if we could take the ones that were net residential, add more jobs to them, more commercial, and the ones that are net commercial and add more residences to them. So in the city centers, where there are more jobs than residents, that's where you would be building the residential. And in the suburbs like Newton, where there are more residents than jobs, you would be building more commercial uses. That was the paradigm as I understood it. And I have recently heard this being used by elected officials in Newton, including members of the city council, by my friend, the chair of the Newton Democratic City Committee on one forum made this point, and a number of other people who I think who are totally dedicated to dealing with global warming and are good people, but are under the misapprehension that by building more residential housing in Newton, more housing in Newton, I guess all housing being residential, right? Mm-hmm. More housing in Newton, they are helping to deal with the problem of global warming. This is contrary to everything I've understood about how we would deal with global warming. Now, which isn't to say, by the way, that there aren't plenty of reasons to build housing, because not the least of which is people need a place to live. So there are plenty of arguments for making housing, but dealing with global warming shouldn't be one of the reasons for building housing in Newton, I think. Now, I can be proven totally wrong, and the man to do it is Matt Yospin, because Matt, prior to being a lawyer, I know a little bit about your past. We've got our sources here.
Yes.
That you were a climate scientist.
Yes, I was.
And so, Matt, I have put on your plate the challenge
All right.
of coming up with a list of things that the city of Newton can do as a government, rules we could pass, laws, policies that could be implemented that would reduce the city of Newton's carbon footprint.
Yeah.
So what have you come up with for us tonight?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. So first I'd say let's get back to development at the end of this discussion, because there's, I think, a nice segue from there to other development, like we were talking about earlier. But one brief note about it, with any development, residential or not, but residential in particular, there's three major emissions factors. One is the emissions cost of the construction itself, the labor and the materials, the energy used that goes into them. Another is the inherent vehicle miles traveled, and another is the use by the building of energy for heating, for cooling, whatever it is. We'll get back to that in a sec. I think for the city to act locally, things we can do to reduce our carbon emissions, which is, I think, got to be our primary goal here, is one, fossil fuel divestment, 2, better use of.
So just to be clear, fossil fuel.
Let
fuel,
me get back to it in a minute and just run through the topics and then dive in. What fossil fuel divestment, use of energy in homes and also businesses in the city, vehicles.
Reducing use.
Yeah, reducing the carbon density of energy used in the city in particular, both by efficiency and by the source of the energy, whether it's a carbon.
Like clean energy?
Well, solar or wind, say, or nuclear or geothermal or tidal energy or hydropower, all of which have their own challenges, but don't rely on taking carbon that's been trapped in the earth for millions of years and releasing it into the atmosphere. Vehicles, transportation. Another is encouraging use of bikes, which is related to vehicles, but there's other policies we can implement separate from policies related to vehicles, and then development. So for homes, one thing the city, well, let's start with fossil fuel divestment, right? I know Councilor Emily Norton has pushed hard, and we're going to have, and we have now a 100% renewable energy option for residents. That should be expanded. The cost should be lowered.
So when you say divestment, you don't mean like in a stock portfolio kind of divestment?
No, I mean, that's right. I mean, stop using fossil fuels. The city uses energy.
Right. So right now we're heating city buildings using gas and oil, and we should stop doing that.
And probably some coal power too, because there's coal baseline in our grid.
Okay. We're using it remotely, like it's coal being burned somewhere else that's coming through in the form of electricity. Got it.
Right. And city vehicles. You know, we have city electric vehicles. That fleet should be expanded rapidly as possible, including large vehicles, plows, trucks, buses that we contract to for transportation.
So just to make this into a to-do list kind of a form. First of all, we should. Electric vehicles, I understand they're available, they can be purchased. There's sometimes even tax credits for them. What about the use of fossil fuels in buildings? How do you stop, we've got an oil burner in a building. What do you replace that with to heat that school, because we need to keep our school heated?
Great question. So I'd gone through my city energy use, fossil fuel divestment. Homes and resident and office buildings in the city and also city properties could be switched over to heat pumps. There's a few different technologies out there. Some of them are really a lot like an air conditioner unit that you put outside and then you pump heat in or out of the building with a compressor.
So it runs on electricity?
They can run on electricity. If you get your electricity from a non-carbon source, then you've cut out...
Like solar, wind, that kind of thing?
Exactly. Then you've cut out that root source of emissions. The city could do that. It costs money. But if we want to make climate change mitigation and reduction of emissions a primary goal, we should be willing to spend money.
So how does a heat pump work for, let's just use the example, it's the middle of winter and we've got Newton South High School, we want to keep it warm so the students can study.
They can work below freezing.
Oh, Newton North gets all the, I got it. Now I see where you're headed with this, Matt. You Newtonville people, they're out to carve up the city.
First of all,
we will freeze the south of Newton.
First of all, everybody could put on gloves indoors, but it's not necessary because, I'm kidding, that's a joke.
Okay.
Because the heat pumps work below freezing.
So how does that work? Just where's the other end of the pump connected to? Where's this heat coming from?
Oh, I'm sorry, maybe you haven't seen any. They have a compressor outside you put it outside a building. It looks like a central AC unit. And they pipe air in, or coolant, in and out of the building. So you've got pipes running up the side of the building to a register, which looks like a large rectangular box. And inside it, there's a heat exchanger, like your car's radiator, and fans. And if it's hot inside and you want to cool it off, you run it to transport heat outside.
So what if it's cold inside and cold outside, like in the winter?
It works.
Well, where does the warmth come from is what I'm asking. Because there's one version of this that I've read about that is used in apparently very popular in Scandinavia, those
are different. I know what you're going to describe. So there's a couple different things. Those are more geothermal heat pumps.
Yes.
Where you drill like a pair of boreholes far down.
You basically have a big concrete block with pipes far enough underground, it's always 55 degrees or whatever year round. And so you've got water flowing through these pipes, and it gets circulated up into the building.
That's a geothermal heat pump.
Okay. I don't understand how the one you're describing would work then.
It works like any other compressor. Your fridge, okay? Do you have a refrigerator at home?
Yes, indeed.
Does it work when it's warm in your house?
Yes.
Does it work when your house is cold in the winter?
Yes. So
It works the same way if you put it outside.
Got it now.
It's got a fluid inside it. When you compress the fluid, it heats up. When you let the fluid expand, it cools off.
Got it. So it's just an electric heating and cooling system.
Yes.
All right.
I'm glad you know how to work a refrigerator.
I know how to open the door.
You know what, Dick?
and
I'm
take-
glad he
nervous
does
for a
too.
minute.
You want to
Yeah.
do with
Anyway, no, I just, okay. I mean,
So those are different technologies. One is the geothermal heat pump with the 2 boreholes in the ground. You can also run those with a horizontal loop system. If you, say, dig up your yard and you lay a network, if you don't have or don't want to dig 2 deep boreholes, you can dig a system that exchanges heat with the ground.
are there any examples of this around Newton or in the area where buildings that have either one of these?
Yes.
Can you give us an example?
I don't want to call her out, but I believe Councilor Emily Norton does have these in her home and heats her home with it. And a relative of mine does as well. They work really nicely. They heat the house in the winter. They cool the house in the summer.
Can they work on a scale of a city building like a high school? Are they?
Yes. You can get enormous ones. Yeah.
Are they noisy? Are they expensive? What's the argument against doing this immediately?
They cost some money.
Does the energy over time cost more than we're paying now?
I don't think it does. I'd have to do the math, but fossil fuels are costly, whatever the source is. Oil in particular, because the price fluctuates wildly, and it fluctuates with global economic conditions and global stability. And there's a tremendous extra cost with oil because it gets trucked everywhere. So you emit all the carbon that's required to truck oil all around, from refineries to depots and then out on trucks to everybody's homes and businesses. With electricity, there's very little carbon cost to the distribution.
There's some reduction over the course of.
We already have the infrastructure. Right? So there's really, we're dealing with the infrastructure we have now. There's really not much incremental cost to using more electricity, provided that we can derive it from non-carbon intensive sources.
Right. So then that's the issue, really,
Right.
how to get the electricity from sources other than fossil fuels.
Right. And the thing is, I'll show you what we need for that. It's money. That's it.
Oh, that's it?
we
Okay.
have-
No
we
problem
have-
there.
No, we have all of the technology we need. The price
Yeah.
has dropped every year for decades for solar, different types of solar, photovoltaics and passive solar heating. For wind power, the cost is exponentially lower than it was a decade and 2 decades ago. So as these sources continue to be built, the cost of electricity will fall further and further. Some of them are capable of providing the sort of baseload power that coal provides in many parts of this country. And in New England, that hydropower, which will continue to provide baseline power here, and nuclear power, which also provides a significant amount of the baseload power in New England. Those are going to continue to exist.
So this is so important. I want to spend a lot of time on it, but I want to get through each of these subtopics. So far on our agenda for Newton City Hall for our city councilors and our would-be city councilors.
Yep, we hope.
We've got item number 1 is replace the city fleet of vehicles with electric vehicles.
Yep.
Item number 2 is heat and cool city building with compressor systems.
Yep.
And related to both of those is you need to be getting your electricity from a non-fossil fuel source.
That's right.
Okay.
Here's item number 3, and this is pretty easy, is more efficiency. Keep replacing light bulbs, keep updating windows so that windows seal hot air out better and cold air out better, depending on the season, obviously. That should be done for city buildings, but it also should be encouraged and incentivized for homes. So for all homes, new construction, existing offices in Newton, new office space in Newton, and retail space, we should, as a city, I think, choose to incentivize people to increase the efficiency of their home, and that means heat pumps for heating and cooling, better lighting, better windows, better insulation.
Is there a way to find out if your windows are not insulating well enough? How if you wanted to say, evaluate your house?
Oh, sure. So
who do you call for that?
So there's a few easy tests. One is to do this. and stand next to a window.
I was just gonna say. I was
Yes,
just
that
And if you can feel a
Yeah.
breeze,
Okay.
you need to improve your windows.
or close the window.
Always sharp, Tarik. Always sharp.
Okay, we've got a wonderful state program called Mass Save.
Right.
It's been running for years. We've used it at our house twice. I know many of my friends and neighbors have as well. Everybody should continue to rely on it. But here's something the city can do. Add incentives.
For example,
Incentivize people to install heat pumps.
what kind of incentive, though? A financial incentive?
Well, either a flat financial incentive, or if for some reason you want to scale it to people's income or property value, you can do those. Or give people it not as the form of money back, but as a rebate off of their
Property tax?
property tax. Yeah, that's an easy
But
place to
basically,
go.
we're talking money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give people a financial incentive.
Matt, I just had a question for you.
Yeah.
What is your feelings about nuclear energy?
Great question. I support nuclear energy.
You do?
Yep.
In Newton?
Interesting.
Sure.
Okay, all right.
All right, no, because I've been reading about it, and it seems like there's a lot of fighting
People
about it.
get really fired up
Yeah,
about it, and
yeah.
I understand
Well,
the risks.
there's a new special out on Chernobyl. People remember 3 Mile
And
Island.
yes,
and
they
the
do.
Japanese meltdown.
So
Name-
you're okay
name-
with it then?
2 more nuclear disasters.
Those are the 3 I know of.
Right.
Those are the only 3 that ever happened, right?
Okay. Let me put this.
3 is enough,
Let me
though.
put this in perspective.
Yeah.
How many people died at 3 Mile Island as a result of the accident? How many people died?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Nobody?
Nobody.
Nobody? Okay.
Nobody died.
People died at Chernobyl.
People got sick. People got ill.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. Absolutely. How many people die as a result of car accidents every year in the U.S.? Every year. Not the one time we had a nuclear disaster in the U.S.
I saw this. It's like the number of people who died in the Vietnam War, Americans who died in the
50,000,
Vietnam War.
something
It's
like
about
that.
55,000.
Which is the, yeah.
How many people died at Fukushima? The nuclear power plant in Japan that suffered a record-breaking earthquake and tsunami.
I'm guessing none. Or
No,
Two.
Yeah, but there's a
Two
lot.
workers.
Wait.
Two workers
Yeah,
died.
but there's a lot of
a
down the road
Okay. Yeah.
disease that can come out of it.
Let
right?
me explain a little bit of my background on this. So I studied climate science in college and in grad school. I don't have a master's, but I was in a climatology PhD program. I won't list for you all the courses I took. Here's what's going to happen if we don't act on climate change. The polar ice cap in the Arctic Ocean is going to melt.
Sure.
Greenland is going to have its western ice sheet collapse. The West Antarctic ice sheet is going to collapse. And then they're all going to continue to melt. And that's in addition to all of the other climate-related disasters of fires, floods, droughts, lack of water in every tropical region. That's from 30 degrees south to 30 degrees north, where the primary source of water is snowcap on mountains. That's all going to melt. And everybody who lives in those areas is going to be deprived of water. For the record, the Himalayas alone support over 2 billion people with the water that comes off the snowpack in the Himalayas. Now, contrast that to the very, very small risk of a nuclear disaster, which is a lot smaller than people think it is. France, for instance, has built reactors the same way. And if you scale any particular technology, you get really good at it. Ask, for instance, Elon Musk about making batteries in cars. Everybody thought it was impossible to make electric cars and make them at scale. I think they're doing okay. Nuclear reactor technology has improved vastly over where it was at 3 Mile Island and where it was at Chernobyl. And the deaths and radiation poisoning at Chernobyl is really a result of incompetence and bureaucratic lies, much more than an engineering failure. I know there's a TV show out about it, but
haven't seen it. Heard about it.
I haven't either.
Yeah,
I've read
I've seen
about it. It sounds a little melodramatic. Yes, nuclear power has risks, but if you hold those risks up against the risks that we are certain to run into if we continue to emit carbon, I think nuclear power is far and away safer than any fossil fuel source. And I have said this to friends since the mid-90s when I started studying this issue, and both nuclear power and climatology. And I'm not a nuclear power apologist. There have been some very bad experiments and nuclear tests done,
Right.
but we should be building nuclear power plants.
And of course, in addition to
I want
all
to
the-
reiterate that. We should be building nuclear power plants across this country to deal with climate risk and carbon emissions.
Okay, so Matt, let me ask you this then. Are you saying this because if you take away fossil fuels and solar and wind aren't going to work and not get enough going to so you need to have some other source of energy,
Right.
which you're saying is safe. Nuclear power is safer than obviously what's going on right now with fossil fuels.
If it's done well, and
Yeah.
we know how to do it well, it is safer than fossil fuels. It is less dangerous than fossil fuels. It also has, believe it or not, fewer negative environmental impacts than sources like hydropower. And I know you think hydropower, how is it dangerous? Hydropower, first, it's not in the long term a renewable resource. If you look at dams in the West, hydropower dams in the West, first, they're all silting up because desert rivers run silty. And second, as droughts come and go and water levels drop, those dams don't produce. And when there's floods, those dams lead to horrible disasters.
Yeah, in terms of the danger,
not natural disasters, those are man-made disasters.
in terms of the dangers of fossil fuels, we're not only talking, of course, about climate change, but there have been many disasters where coal mines have collapsed. There have
Right.
been disasters where liquid fuels have exploded and had massive numbers of deaths. I mean, there are a lot of trains of.
Can I name some more? Fracking is poisoning people
Yeah.
all across
Right.
this country. And natural gas is super cheap. I bet many of you heat your homes with it.
Yep.
I do. I'd rather have a heat pump. Fracking is poisoning communities and killing people.
so-
actively now, fracking has killed more people than nuclear power has.
So we've got a menu
now,
of options.
I mean, in the past 10 years, it sickens people.
Sure.
Nuclear power is easier and safer to control. Mines collapse. You also need to be mindful of the.
Well, there's the famous West Virginia case, of course, where it was like the whole they had the dam with the.
Yeah, I read that case.
Yeah,
in law
yeah,
school.
everyone. But a lot of people were killed in that. The whole valley, basically.
That killed more people than nuclear power has ever killed in the U.S. And you're also with fossil fuels, especially coal, but also natural
LNE.
gas.
There have been explosions of ships and pipelines. With
LPG, liquefied, yeah,
right,
liquefied
right.
natural gas.
LPG.
The LNG, liquefied natural
okay,
gas.
right.
There are also the risks.
I'm not good with acronyms.
if you ask any epidemiologist or you look up the studies that the NIH has done,
I know what
burning-
NIH is.
Good. Burning coal kills people and shortens their lives because of particulate matter coming out of the
Well,
coal.
which gets to a whole nother issue, of course.
So Dick, I'm glad you asked. I know it's not popular among
No, it's
the
good-
environmental crowd, and,
yeah.
and I'm part of it.
Yeah.
But we should be building nuclear power plants.
It is
And
interesting.
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ken, but the topic here tonight was what can Newton do?
Yeah.
Yes.
Newton cannot build a nuclear power
No.
plant. I for one would welcome one in Newton, but it's not in Newton's power to do so. So I wasn't bringing that up as something Newton should push to do.
Okay, so in terms of the things, just try to bring us back to the topic, because this is all great stuff, but to focus in to the things that Newton should do, you had 3 things on your list?
Oh, I've got a lot more than that.
Okay, well, let's hear the rest of the list.
So heat pumps, non-carbon energy,
We've got heating buildings, we've got vehicles, okay.
and efficiency in the use of electricity.
Okay, we've got people should seal up their windows and all that.
Yes,
got
that's
it.
right.
All of that. I think
Okay.
Newton should add to mass saves incentives for Newton residents.
Incentivizing people to do
and
this.
put our money where our mouth is.
Okay, all right.
Okay, for vehicle miles traveled, we should push the MBTA to improve service.
On the
Yeah,
red
good
line
luck. Yeah,
especially.
good luck with that.
I'm just saying what we should do. I'm not saying I have a magic wand, Tarik. I wish I did.
So what
we
would you like
should-
the MBTA to
We
do?
should encourage
More
Newton.
bus service? I mean, what do we
More
got?
bus service, more Green Line service, more commuter rail service. We should, I think, encourage Newton to subsidize T-passes for Newton residents.
Sure.
The goal is to reduce vehicle miles traveled, right?
Yep.
Because vehicle miles in the fossil fuel
Yeah.
fleet we have now means carbon emissions.
Sure.
So we reduce vehicle miles. What's one way to do that? Make it free for people to ride the T. I know the T just raised their fares. I prepared a chart on how I think the T should change its pricing. Can I share it?
Yeah, yeah,
Is that all right?
yeah.
I've got it here.
There we go. That's actually a number, not a chart, but okay.
It's like a chart. It's got lines.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
It's good.
Okay.
Y-axis.
Yes.
Well, and of course there's a lot of inefficiency in collecting fares. That's a cost, too.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Here's another way Newton could reduce vehicle miles traveled with the current MBTA. Give Newton residents free parking near MBTA stops.
On T parking lots or on city parking lots?
If we could do it on T parking lots, we can.
Yeah.
If not, on city streets.
Okay.
I know it would mean some loss of revenue to the city. Again, I look at this, our primary goal is reducing vehicle miles
Okay.
traveled.
Oh yeah, I
What's the way
agree
to
with
do that?
Okay.
Make
What,
it,
what else do you have on your list, Matt? Because let's.
I got more.
I'm going to ask you about the development issue if you haven't got. If you haven't.
Can I get to bikes?
Okay, let's talk bikes and then let's talk development.
Okay, first the Green Line. All the Green Line stops should either be free or you should build gates around them so people pay as they walk into the stop, not as they walk onto the train. It would make the T much faster and much more attractive to use.
I think, back
Although
in the,
again,
like that.
this is
Yeah.
what the MBTA should cost.
well, back
Right.
in the old days, when I was probably Ken's age, or
Wait,
before
my
that,
age.
or, yeah, right.
Or Matt's age or Teresa's
I think
age.
it was free going out.
It was, yes.
It
that's
used
right.
to be.
Right?
It
Yeah.
may cost
Yeah.
twice as much going in. as
Right.
going out.
Yeah.
And that's been
Yeah.
floated again to make a reverse commute on the T free.
Yeah.
But again, I think all trips on the T should cost $0.
Zero.
Here's another
Absolutely
thing
agree with that, Matt.
Here's
So
something
let's-
Newton can do.
I do want to bring the other panelists in, so I'm going to
I
have
know.
to ask you. Okay, what can Newton do?
Newton
Let's get-
Nexus. We used to have a Newton public transit.
Yeah,
just a
it
bus
was, it
running
was,
around.
it was
Didn't work.
it didn't work because it was
Do you know-
designed,
It should cost $0.
but no one would have taken it anyway because it didn't have stops. You had to flag it down. It had a complicated route. It wasn't the same route every day. It was
That's-
like different days.
we
of the
now-
week.
well,
it was the brainchild of arrogant people who thought they knew better and could tell people what they needed
Let me ask you
rather
this.
than
I can't
Do you
believe that
think we
happens
could
in
do it
Newton.
better?
what?
Do you think we could do it
Yes,
better?
we absolutely
Okay.
should.
Well, we now have these things called smartphones, so now you could track when the bus is coming around to your neighborhood, and you can have
It's
a
a great
schedule
idea
right
to
on
have
your
a
phone.
good local
Yeah.
public
Yeah.
And
transportation
you
system.
do it all with apps. The T has them, if the T's ever up and
It's
running.
a great
but-
idea if it could be done in a way that.
Right. So we should put our money where our mouth is. We should have public transit within Newton. Okay, last one, bikes. Protected bike lanes on major roads. Take some non-major roads and do what I know other cities have done, which is close them to cars every couple blocks. So that side streets, smaller streets, can become quick bikeways that don't have cars zooming down them at 40.
What about
on
people who
local
live on the
streets.
street? How would
Yeah,
they get to
what
that?
happens with them?
You don't close them completely, but you put barriers to cars so that, say, Homer Street, and I'm not sure Homer Street's a great candidate for this.
Or it's a pretty main street, actually.
I live right off of Homer Street,
Or-
so you go ahead and I'll tell you what I think.
Or any, I know you're not going to like it, but again, if the goal is to reduce vehicle miles traveled and get people onto bikes, you want to make biking safer and easier. Make it easier by making the streets where cars can't zoom at 30 or 40 miles an hour.
Okay.
The whole slew of streets that run perpendicular between Beacon and Homer, it's connecting those two, those are all terrific candidates.
Matt.
Even if that is one of those is
Yeah,
your
one of
street.
So Matt, are the here's the question that I need an answer to.
Okay.
Are the people who say that if you want to reduce Newton's carbon footprint, you should build more residential units in Newton, more housing in Newton, are they right?
No, that's magical thinking, and it's completely wrong. It is, as my grandfather would say, bass-ackwards.
Okay, explain.
You can
what-
say that on TV.
I can.
Yes,
thank
yes,
you.
yes.
Here's why. Because all the things that we've just been talking about tonight are about reducing vehicle miles traveled, right? If you put more housing in Newton, and there aren't jobs in Newton for those people to travel to, you're going to add vehicle miles
That seemed
traveled.
pretty intuitive to me. I'm glad to know I'm not haven't lost my
Let's-
logical
look,
capacity.
folks, let's do the math. I mean, like the Sierra Club report you were talking about, and other reports talking about, put housing where there are jobs. Put office space where there is housing. Newton has far and away a surplus of housing relative to the offices and the retail outlets that we have here.
Well, that's not what the developers are saying,
They can make more money off of residential.
That, I think,
Right.
is true.
That's
and
absolutely
I
right.
don't care.
Oh, I don't care either.
Okay.
No, I think we would agree
I
on
don't care
that.
either.
Yeah, yeah.
All
No,
right,
no,
all right,
I
all
don't
right.
think you do. I'm just saying.
So let's, Matt,
they're wrong.
I am going to go around the table now. We give you the first 35 minutes of this.
And I appreciate it. I don't
No,
know.
this is valuable, though.
Yes.
This is really valuable. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Scott.
So, Tarik, you're running for the city council.
Yes.
Let me ask you a simple question. Sure. Would you pledge to do some or all of what Matt just said if you were elected? And which parts do you like? Which parts do you not like?
The nuclear power plants does make me. It does make me nervous. It does make me nervous. But no, Matt, you mentioned some very good things as far as your housing and how much housing do we build, how much commercial do we build. I think we need to find that balance. I think it's all about balance of new housing and new commercial. Commercial meaning, I think, office space is, I think, more valuable than straight up retail. We need to incentivize using electric cars, and that means newer developments and city-owned buildings should have them, lots of them, to incentivize for people.
You
to
mean
buy,
charging stations?
yeah, I'm sorry, charging stations to incentivize people to purchase an electric car, and they can charge it when they're at work or they're in the.
What do you
the
think about
supermarket.
Matt's specific suggestions to replace the gas and oil heat in city buildings with this heat compressor technology? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Natural gas, if that comes from fracking, you don't want. I mean, obviously, you don't want fracking coming to Newton or coming to Massachusetts. It's probably already in Massachusetts. And oil, yes, oil is dirty. Granted, I use gas in my car. I use gas in the home, but I know it is bad, and I'm all for getting rid of that. It's the green buildings. Basically, if we're going to build green buildings that are better for the environment.
And what about replacing the city's vehicle fleet?
Yeah.
Police cars, fire trucks,
Police cars. That'd be interesting if they're
construction vehicles
that
with
would be
electric
interesting.
trucks? Or,
Yeah, I don't
or
know.
are we just talking about the health inspector's car?
Yeah,
that
I mean
kind of thing?
the traffic division car. I'm not sure about police cars. I think I would have to know more about the mileage on them because I would hate to have them chasing someone down Washington
You mean
Street.
speed? You mean the velocity?
Yeah,
or-
no. The mileage on if they're chasing someone down Washington Street and all of a sudden they run out of electric.
Oh,
Their range. how
yeah,
range.
right, exactly.
Yeah, and
the
those
range.
things run
Yeah.
day and night.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. So I mean, police cars, I'm not so sure, and fire trucks, I'm not so sure, but everything else, yeah, we could purchase more electric cars. Absolutely. Yeah.
I just want
Absolutely.
to add something too.
Well, let me just see if Tarik, is there anything else? Is there anything that Matt suggested other than nuclear power that you have any trepidation about?
The bike lanes, not so much the protected bike lanes, as I think they can work in certain spots, but the closing off of streets, residential streets, I would have to know more about that. So I'm going to push back a little bit on that one. Sure. I would
Okay.
need to know more.
I agree.
Okay, well, I'm going to let
Yeah.
Dick in now to the conversation. Dick, you were on the city council again for then Board of Aldermen for most of it for 8 years.
right.
If you'd had these proposals in front of you, if Matt were on the council making these proposals, would you be a yes vote for him?
Well, I think for most of them, but not all of them. I think, for instance, I think that the thing about what I'd like to know more about is when you're going to replace, let's say, our gas heat with heating. What do you call them? Heat pumps. How much is that going to cost? How is that going to work? Because I certainly would do it if I even looked into it. We used to have oil. Now we have natural gas in the house, and I've heard about heat pumps. But what I haven't heard about is what is the cost going to be? And that I think is very important to everybody because if the cost is going to be too high for them, they're obviously not going to rush to do it. If they think they're going to save money, I think they would rush to do it. And the question that I have is, what is the cost of the heat pumps as opposed to oil or natural gas?
Yeah.
But are they noisy, the compressors? I know some buildings have noisy compressors.
Not especially. And if you or any of your neighbors have a central air compressor, it's like that but quieter because they're newer.
So what would the cost be? Could you give me any idea of what it would?
I don't know what it would be to replace them and heat a building like City Hall, say. That's a
What
very
about
about
for a
what about
house?
the house?
The house, just
yeah, my house, so
so,
your house.
So when I
Yeah.
priced these out for our house, and this was, I believe, 6 years ago, we were told that to heat and cool the entire house to a comfortable, what Americans are used to level of temperature, was about $20,000. And I think the cost has come down considerably since then.
Okay.
I haven't priced them out since. Our house is not especially large, like 1,800, 1,900 square feet. It's a 2-story colonial, like a lot of houses around
It's
here.
a lovely house, man.
Thanks,
Wow.
Ken. We try. So and the people I know who've installed them recently, I think with incentives have spent in the range of $3,000 to $6,000, depending on how many they're getting and whether they're trying to do their entire house or effectively supplement their existing system with about half the house. So my sense is that depending on size of a home.
So that's an interesting idea. You could keep your oil or gas hookup, but
course.
only use it like on the coldest days of the year.
Yeah.
Say, and the rest of the time just
Well,
rely on the.
Yes, exactly. Only use the fossil fuel one on the coldest days.
Exactly,
Right.
as a supplement to
Yeah.
the
okay.
to
Yeah.
the clean energy.
And that's what some of the people I know who've installed them do.
So does Mass Save do that?
Yeah, Mass Save, I believe, runs incentives for them. I'm not a Mass Save master.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't
just
know
curious
their
about-
price structures offhand, but I know that they have in the past included heat pumps.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to get that out, obviously, because if that's going to make a difference.
I don't think people know about
I
this,
don't know.
yeah.
I don't think they do.
And geothermal I think is a little bit a different story with geothermal.
They're-
That's
from what I
more
understand.
expensive, right? Because you have to dig
They're
down.
more
into it.
expensive to install because you either have to dig up a yard and lay a whole system of coolant pipes essentially
Yeah.
under your yard and then put your
And there
yard
could be
back.
rock and everything under there, right?
It depends on your yard, but it depends on the bedrock geology. And Newton is mostly built on fill, so if you wanted to, it's pretty easy to dig boreholes. But in some places, if you're on a tough rock shelf, then drilling boreholes is going to be really difficult and therefore expensive, and it might cost you less to dig up.
But the advantage to that is
10,000 square feet,
the advantage to-
5,000 square feet.
The
or
advantage
less.
to that system, as I understand it, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, is that it costs far less energy to operate
That's
once
right.
it's up and running,
That's right.
because all you're doing is circulating
Right.
that
One or the other, yeah.
that 55 degrees
Yeah.
from underground into your house.
Yeah, that's right.
Cooling
And
in the
look,
which cools in the
Yeah.
summer and warms
Yeah.
in the winter.
For a home, for an average home, I don't think it would make sense to have, say, 3 types of heating systems, right? Not a heat pump and a natural gas furnace, even a high efficiency one, and a borehole geothermal or yard surface geothermal. But for a large building like City Hall or a new office building or even a new residential building, there's no reason that we couldn't require them to make it very low carbon by digging multiple boreholes for geothermal.
Well, what about? Let me ask you a
and multiple
question.
heat
You
pumps.
didn't say this explicitly, but here's my question. We have some large special permit proposals coming to Newton. People are aware of. There's the Northland one, the Riverside one. What about just saying any special permit construction in Newton, over a certain size, perhaps, must be zero carbon? In other words, must be. You have to build underneath it the geothermal part, so that while you're building the foundation anyway, you can put in what you call boreholes.
yeah.
I've
I
heard
see
it
what
called
you
other things.
Okay.
Would that be a viable proposal? I mean,
Well, look, I'm not on the city council, and I oppose those large projects, special permit or not, for other reasons, because there's a lot of other negative externalities associated with them, both from a climate standpoint.
and we'll talk about those in a minute.
Sure. But if we are going to go ahead with any of these projects that I think are disastrous for the community,
What if they're
yeah,
scaled down to a level that they're not disastrous?
Right.
Yeah.
In other words,
yeah, of course we should be requiring that. It's crazy not to. Look, if I were in charge and I had a magic wand, I would require some non-fossil fuel heating source for every home. Single family, 2 family, whatever it is. Every new building in Newton should have some type of non-carbon heating system. And if I could, and if we could structure a way to do it, I would do it for remodels too. If you pull a building permit, you want to rebuild your kitchen, you want to build out over your garage, make it more energy efficient.
So Matt, we're going to move on to the next
That's-
topic
that's
now.
what I would do.
But here's and I'm not going to take too much time to wrap up this topic because I think there was a lot of common ground,
Yeah.
mostly because we all agree with Matt, mostly,
Except on one.
except on
Yeah.
nuclear. And nuclear and blocking off Homer Street.
Well, I got
but I will
nuclear,
say
I'm not
this.
sure about, yeah.
But I will say this. I think that whether they agree with it or not, I think that watching the last 45 minutes of Matt's explanation on our questions should be mandatory viewing for every city councilor and every candidate for city council. Because I think even if they don't agree with it, to be aware of these issues and conversant
We
with
can
this.
take this 1 hour and put it in front of the city council, that they have to sit there and watch it.
I think it should be. I think we should pass. We should have a citizens petition that everyone should listen to Matt's explanation.
Okay.
Of which-
That's 4.
I'm humbled. Thank you, Ken.
Okay, moving on to our next topic. With not as much time, but this is something we keep coming back to.
Yeah.
And there's more that keeps happening. And that, of course, is development in Newton. Specifically, some of these larger projects that have been proposed. And Matt, you alluded to having some concerns about them. Tarik, you're running for office.
Yes,
you're
I
talking to
am.
people, and I'm sure
Yes.
you've heard some of these. And so this topic I'm calling ranking Riverside. It is not specifically just about Riverside, but there's been a lot in the press, and there's been a lot of, or in the press, on the city website at least, and in some forums where there have been opportunities to discuss these, about what's involved in these, the numbers of stories, the amount of parking, the amount of potential traffic that would be generated, the number of children that would be added to the schools, the number of housing units. There's a lot of information out there, and there have been advocacy groups like Right Size Newton talking about concerns about the density associated with these projects. My question is, I'd like to ask each panelist for what they like and what they don't like. In other words, let me frame it another way. How do we know good development when we see it? What kind of development do we want in Newton? And then let's hold up that lens to these proposals and see how they match up with what we think is desirable development. So Tarik, I know that's a lot to throw at you,
Yeah.
but tell me what do you like to see in development? What do you think good development for Newton would consist of?
I think there are many things that I look for in a good development project. One is the actual scale, the actual size of the development, number of stories, and increased density. I think that is probably one of the main things.
So I mean, how much density is the right amount then? What's your
Well,
what's your,
it depends on where. It depends on where you are. I mean, I can't. No part of Newton is the same.
Let's apply
Yeah.
that to, and correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong. Someone may know better than I. But at Riverside, I've heard they're talking about two buildings. 116 and 118.
No, it's 14 and 18.
14 and 18.
14 and 18, and then
Stories.
stories.
Right.
And then on Grove Street, it is 6-story buildings. I believe it's 6-story buildings on Grove Street.
How many 6-story buildings?
Several. Oh, there's a map up there right now. So looks like
basically-
it's 2 or it's it.
So
yeah.
I was curious because
Yeah.
you know how you go past those tall
Yeah.
buildings around Route 128 in Waltham, and so I was curious how many stories. The tallest one, the tallest building in Waltham, in fact. Yeah, anyone want to guess at the tallest building in
I
Waltham?
think it's 10. No?
Newton.
How many
Corner
how
is
many
10.
feet tall? How many feet?
I don't know.
Where in Waltham?
Anywhere in Waltham, but they're on Route 128.
100 feet.
Very good, Matt. 97 feet is the
okay.
highest.
So like an
Eight stories
Eight
and
stories.
97 feet.
Okay.
And they're so
10,
they're
yeah.
we're proposing what would as I understand it be the tallest buildings
in Newton.
on not only in Newton
Yeah.
but on Route 128 anywhere around Route 128. So Newton we would
Yeah,
have
yeah,
the
right.
biggest Route 120, the highest Route 128 development. And Route 128 goes in a big circle, or
Yeah.
most of us, not quite
Yes.
a circle, a letter C, as it were.
Yeah.
So Tarik, with that framework in mind, 14,
Yeah.
18, how many stories do you think is appropriate in Newton?
Depends on where you are. For Riverside, I would say something that's shorter. You could probably go up to maybe 7 or 8 there. I really don't. I can't say for right now, but I say 7 to 8 max, and then have a range to have breaks in them. Have breaks, so it's not just a wall of right now a 6-story building. I don't think that works well. I think it's when you're driving by.
So you're talking about an aesthetic here.
Yeah.
What about in terms of impacts on traffic?
Oh,
schools,
traffic!
anything?
Traffic over is going to be terrible
Infrastructure, that could-
on Grove Street and in Auburndale and parts on Lower Falls.
If this is approved, you mean?
If it is approved. If it is approved. This is all assuming that if what has been submitted by the developer is approved without any major adjustments to it. It's 675 housing units. I'm worried about
And how much commercial are they talking about?
it's around. I think it's close to a 50-50 ratio, which I do like that. I do like the ratio in terms of square footage, in terms of residential to commercial. But the main thing, it can be transit-oriented development, but I worry about with all the.
What does that mean exactly?
It means what I think of is that it is a quick walk to get on a train, not so much a bus, but on a train that has consistent service.
You mean the Green Line?
The Green Line. Okay. It's a good location. It's a good location. What I worry about the impacts about something big at Riverside, something big near the Elliott train station, which is Northland, and then trying to get on the train further down the track once you're in, Chestnut Hill, Newton
So
Center.
you're worried that the MBTA might be overloaded?
I'm thinking that we are overloading already a unreliable Green Line system.
It's gone off the tracks twice in the last week.
With the Green Line, it was in Kenmore Square, I think it was. I think it was the D Line train.
Right.
Right.
They had the accident
They've had two go off the tracks literally. in the last
so
week.
I'm worried about the.
I'm concerned about as a very frequent Green Line user.
So please be careful on the train.
Still safer
yes.
than being in a car, though.
Unless I'm driving.
That's a good confession.
Yeah.
Candidate for office warns: do not be in town while I'm on behind the wheel.
No, I'm kidding. That was a joke.
We get that. There's no joking here. What, you thought we had joking?
So just the impacts and what's going to happen with the train. With all these developments that are popping up, I think we're going to
any other
overload.
infrastructure impacts you're concerned about, or is
the environment? Schools is obviously a big one. I understand that with all that they say in the school enrollment projection that it won't increase it that much. I have doubts on that. I think people come to Newton because we have the great schools and we spend a lot of money on these schools. And obviously, you want your children to receive the best education. That they can get. And I think these developments will attract more and more children, which I am all for that. I'm all for allowing new people come to Newton. I am a newer resident in Newton. I've been here 10 years. But it is very concerning that the viability of a city could be disrupted in major ways if you allow these massive developments to come into town.
Yeah, let me just pick up on that.
Your turn, Dick.
Yeah,
What do you think? So I'm going to ask you the same question as Tarik. What do you think the criteria for a good development are? What do you like to see in a development in Newton, and how do you apply those criteria? What do you get when you apply those criteria to Riverside and Northland? Do you think they meet your standard, your test?
Well,
for good development?
what I think to start with is that the community and the residential people that are going to be hit with all this development, those are the people that should be talked to, and those are the people that should, I think, have a very, very strong sense of what should be done there. What we have now in this city, I'm afraid to say, is that the developers are now deciding how this city is going to be developed, and the developers are out there for one reason and one reason only, and that's to make money. That's why the developers were out there.
No.
I know it's hard to believe.
They just want to serve the public good.
Exactly.
Create housing.
Well, exactly.
I wish you told us to sit down first.
I know. A lot of people I know don't
I
understand
thought
this.
they were just trying to get sainthood by helping the homeless.
They're trying to help everybody. They're always out for affordable housing. They really care a lot about affordable housing because it helps them to get what they want, which is as much housing as they possibly can. And we have you have it in Newtonville. You saw what happened in Newtonville. People in Newtonville, most of them did not want the kind of housing and this kind of development that was there. Northland and Riverside are going to make.
When you say the kind of development, you're talking about Austin Street or the Washington Street development, the Orr Building. Which one?
I'm talking about both the Austin Street building and how much, and the 68 units that was put there, and of course the building on Washington and Walnut Street, which
The Orr Building.
The Orr Building, and a whole up through to the post office.
Yeah.
And I happen to have grown up in Newtonville.
So
I am
you
not
want to
so-
listen to people. Got
Yes,
that.
yeah.
Now that you've done some listening, you've been an elected official. What do you think of the Riverside proposal as it exists?
I think the
now? Do you
Riverside.
agree with Tarik that it's too big?
I think
or-
it's way too big. I think the Northland one is way too big, and that basically the developers are just trying to get as much development they can to make money in it. The people who are around it, if this Northland project gets built, you're gonna think it's bad going up and down Needham Street now. You know, you're not going to be able to move down that area. And I also think that that's a very good property there. There's I don't know, 22 acres of you could make a good development there. But you can't do it if you're trying to get 800 units and you're trying to get.
Nick, I don't think we've let Matt talk enough this show. So we want to hear from him on this. Matt, you alluded to earlier, you had some concerns about these developments.
Yeah.
Why don't you fill us in on what those are?
Dick, I'm sorry to take up your time. I know I've spoken far more than my fair share tonight.
That's all right.
I think it's preposterous to build any residential development at Riverside. We should build a mix of office space because it's right by the highway. It would be easy for Newton residents who live there to get there to work. It'd be easy for anybody coming from outside, and on outside 128, from the Pike, from 495, to office space there to work. Just office space, no residential development.
What about retail? Any retail you think appropriate there?
We can. I mean, if you have a significant pool of office space, then sure. Some first floor retail, some restaurants, maybe a shop or two.
Bookstore?
I love bookstores.
There
I'd be
are
happy
many
to. Plus, you'd get people able to commute there on the Green Line from Boston.
Or Newton Center.
From Brookline, from Newton.
Yeah.
Right.
So Matt, what about the size of the buildings? Any thoughts on that?
That's crazy. Those are just absurdly large for the space. I mean, if you think that you've got enough commercial tenants for a 14-story office tower and an 18-story office tower, then good luck to you.
So I'm going to put my 2 cents in on the development proposals real quick. I agree with everything that's been said, but I might take it a little farther in this regard only, that I think that these proposed developments are a trifecta of stupidity. They're bad for the city's budget because they put residential ahead of what our rateable is commercial, and commercial supports our great schools and our great services, and so they're long-term not sustainable, to borrow a word from the environmental movement. The second thing in the trifecta is they're bad for the environment, for the reasons that Matt stated, and also because more traffic means more engines idling and pollution. And finally, they're terrible for our quality of life, not only in terms of air and sunlight, but also in terms of getting to your kid's soccer game and getting around the city because of the traffic and the parking impacts. These are exactly the opposite of the kinds of projects that would be good for the city of Newton to be pursuing. I agree with Matt that primarily commercial would be best on both, particularly if you think about it on Needham Street, which is the core, the driving engine of our commercial district in the city that was identified by not one but 2 citywide commissions as the place where we're going to get most of we do get and we should get in the future the lion's share of our commercial tax revenue in the city. About a third of it comes from that corridor from down Needham Street to Newton Center, according to the old Blue Ribbon Commission. Crazy to undermine that by putting a large residential development in there. It just makes no sense, and I think Dick's got the only answer that anyone can have to it, which is that the tail, as I would put it, the tail is wagging the dog. And with that, sounds like the tail being the developers wagging the dog, which is public policy and the interests of Newton residents.
And can you tell me, Ken, why the city council is so in bed with some of these people?
That'll be on our next episode.
Okay, all right.
Matt, thank you for joining us.
All right,
Tarik,
Ken,
thank you. Dick, thank you. This hour went by very quickly. Thank you to our fabulous crew, our director Brian, our crew Will and Eric and John. And thank you at home for watching. And please, please join us again next time when we try to find just an teensy bit more common ground.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it here. So what are you waiting for? Just go to the site.
Welcome to Understood.org, a free online resource for parents of kids with learning and attention issues, with personalized recommendations, tools, and expert advice.